ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me and my no co-host right now, but he'll be here for Top Rope Spoilers, the SummerSlam edition. So as you know, what we like to do, me and my no co-host, give him a minute, we like to go ahead and do our predictions as well as explaining what we do and why we made that prediction. So with that being said, here comes my co-host Steve. Not my co-host.
Hey, I'm here.
It's my husband. He's not co-host.
Co-host for this. But see? Now, for anyone who believed it was kayfabe that we're married, there it is.
Yeah, got his stuff tattooed on my finger.
But as, mine too. So anyway, we, first of all, again, for those of you who joined us yesterday for our Top Rope Spoilers for NXT TakeOver, welcome back. We're glad to do this again. Hey, a double pay-per-view weekend. These are always fun.
Whoop, whoop.
So, hey, let's hop to it. Go ahead and get you into, for those of you that are new to us, we want to give you an idea of how this works. We have the entire card lined up for SummerSlam. That'll be happening tomorrow night on the WWE Network.
Mm-hmm.
We go ahead and give you a quick preview over each of the matches and then give our official predictions. Yep. We're going to see if we're really smart at this or if we're not really smart at this at all.
I was smart to start off. I think I kind of lagged off somewhere, but oh well.
That's all right. We actually don't know what the score is going to be going into this because we made our TakeOver picks yesterday. I'm entering TakeOver with just a one-pick lead over Kia, but based on how things happen, that score could change. I could be up a little bit more. We could be tied.
Yeah, we could.
Depending, because we only had one difference of opinion for that TakeOver card.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it all pans out. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and hop to it here. First of all, as for those of you who have joined us for our shows, we do only give predictions on the card matches that are on at the time that we do the filming.
Yep.
So if they add a pre-show match on the day of, or if they add, a match later on, out of nowhere, or if they do like a quick match during the middle of the pay-per-view, we obviously can't predict it because we didn't know about it.
Nope.
So anyway, we're going to hop to it with our first match. It comes out of our Smackdown division, and we're going to, unfortunately, have to get into our feels early, as our first match that we're going to go over has changed. The stipulations changed a couple of times.
Yeah.
It was originally just a singles match,
Mm-hmm.
then it became a hair versus hair
match.
And now it is a loser leaves WWE match between former best friends turned now bitter enemies, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
Yep.
So, I love them both. It's really hard for me to picture one of them leaving. I am happy that neither of them will have to shave their head personally.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned on our show that I think Sonya could get away with it, but I don't think Mandy could. But, we kind of, have seen this bitter friendship that now really has turned into bitter enemies kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Mandy has tried to
Olive
branch and everything else to try to make things right, to try to set things straight, saying let's turn back on this before it's not too late. Sonya wants nothing to do with it. Sonya is ready to be done with Mandy Rose one way or another. So basically after Sunday, one of them's gone from WWE. Mm-hmm. The only question is which one.
As you said, they were once friends. They were a cohesive group known as Fire and Desire, and right now I don't even know what to call them besides enemies at this point. Mandy Rose gave an olive branch. Sonya didn't want nothing to do with it. Now, as we all know, the stipulation, like you stated, was whoever loses has to leave WWE. So, with that being said...
And, of course, eliminating any possibility of there not being a winner or there being a false finish. Sonya also adding no disqualifications to it as well. So
exactly.
Anything goes. The one thing I would hate to see is something like Retribution end up being the one who ultimately makes the final play in this, because no disqualification means they can do as much as they want. We're curious to see how much Retribution is going to play a role in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But big picture, somebody's got to lose, somebody's got to leave. We don't talk much on the dirt sheets, and everything else. We try to do our best to avoid it. But of course, unless you've been living under a rock, also of all the stuff that's been happening with Sonya Deville and with Mandy Rose. She was there at the time,
mm-hmm.
And some creepy stuff that's been going on at her house. So we know that Sonya's got some legal stuff that she's got to deal with. I've got a feeling I think that's going to end up playing a result in this match. We flipped a coin before TakeOver, and I ended up winning the toss, so I have gone first so far for 3 picks, so opening the picks will be you.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. I love both women. I already told you, female empowerment. But my pick for this, because we kind of feel like we already know what the answer could be, I'm going to go ahead and just go with Mandy Rose to win the whole thing.
Okay. So, trying to, portray it as in storyline, of course you want Sonya, to just be done with Mandy Rose at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mandy, as you said, has extended the olive branch, has tried to make things right. It's clear Sonya doesn't want it. And ultimately, I'm not sure that, Mandy's going to be ready for a match of this caliber. It is easily the biggest match Mandy Rose has been a part of her career up to this point. Sonya's been in a number of big matches, but when it comes to finally getting that really big singles match, both of them really finally getting an opportunity to get the spotlight to themselves, and what a place bigger, hardly no place bigger than SummerSlam to get it. Mm-hmm. I hate the fact that what's happening in the real world is going to probably end up playing a role in how this is going to end. It shouldn't, and I hate it because it was a lot less predictable when it goes in. And who knows, they may still swerve us, and they may still, say, hey, Sonya's here but taking time off or whatever. They may still swerve us. But, I really do feel like the match and the stipulation changed because of what's happening in real world. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I do believe that you're correct. I think Mandy Rose will end up winning this match and allow Sonya not to necessarily go away forever. I do think she'll be gone for the amount of time she needs to be to get her, get her real life stuff settled and get things figured out.
We're wishing you the best, Sonya.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, for those of you that are going to watch this match, regardless of who you're picking, whether you like them, whether you hate them, they've both gone through hell in the last, couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And so this is one where I want everybody to really give their full attention to this match. Support them both, cheer for them both. Whoever loses, fine. We all know its storyline. It's very doubtful whoever loses is actually going to be gone for good. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of, making sure we understand as fans that they have our support, not just as wrestlers, but also as real people.
Yeah.
So, now we've got the emotions out of the way here. Let's move on to another match that definitely has some emotional standpoint as well. We're moving over to Monday Night Raw, where we will have the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, welcome WWE's newest superstar into the ring in the face of Dominik Mysterio, who will be making his WWE in-ring debut. And what a match against the 5-time former champion and the Messiah of Monday Nights.
Remember when we started watching together, Dominik was probably yay tall, hanging out behind the barricades, watching his father
remember
wrestle.
ladder matches for his custody between Ray and Eddie Guerrero, So, Dominik's been around for as long as we've been watching, but now to see him all grown up and, finally going to get a chance to, carry on the Mysterio legacy, hopefully he does him proud. It'll be curious to see because certainly he decided to swing for the fences in his first match. This match also being a street fight. So, again, we will have a winner. We know that both sides have effectively used that kendo stick quite well. We saw the scars and marks on Dominik, a couple of weeks ago after their attack on Raw.
I feel like, but if you're going to go into a match with anybody to start off, because he did swing for the fences. We're not going to even sit here and say he didn't. Best person to go into it with is Seth. Even if Seth is a heel character right now, Seth is one of the best people that will protect you because he himself would want to be protected too. So he is probably the best person to be in this match with.
Exactly. You look at this, match in general, and, you said it yourself. Seth is going to keep him safe. Seth is going to make him, make sure that he's, in the right spots for everything. Mm-hmm. He's willing to help the young rookie along. But also still keeping with that Messiah mentality, he's basically laughing that he obviously is going to go into this a very heavy favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the street fight stipulation, of course, opens the potential door for people like Rey Mysterio, Humberto Carrillo, Murphy, Aleister Black, others to potentially now rear themselves back into this match. So, that street fight mentality, of course, very similar to what we've talked about with Retribution, could potentially end up altering how this match will go. So, this is one where I think it's a little more even than maybe just it would show on paper if it was just a simple one-on-one match.
Now, see here for me, my general opinion, we assume we know who the ringleader is. We could assume it could be Punk. We could assume it could be The Miz, the way everything was taking place and how everything was going down. But Seth has provided himself to be the Messiah of the whole brand. For all we know, he could be the ringleader of Retribution. He's not saying nothing because he's having to uphold his Messiah complex or whatever you want to call it. So, for all we know, they could be part of this match as well.
The one thing I do see, though, as we get ready to go ahead and make our picks, and I'm up first this time, Dominik, as I said, swung for the fences when it came to choosing his first opponent, and what a person to choose in the 5-time champion who has, for all intents and purposes, he's owned SummerSlam throughout his career.
Yes, he really has.
He's got wins over Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. He's got win over Brock Lesnar. He's got, championship title victories at this event. SummerSlam has been a place that he has done well. He has owned this type of match. So on paper, as I said, even though the street fight mentality maybe evens the playing field a little, I do believe Seth Rollins goes in a heavy favor.
Oh, yeah, most
the
definitely.
emotional side of things is going to favor Dominik Mysterio because of what happened to his father at Extreme Rules, losing an eye in the process. So where I think it's going to ultimately come down to is, can Seth Rollins be able to survive that initial 8 to 10 minute emotional push? Because Dominik Mysterio for months has been building up all of this energy, and he's going to come out like a house on fire. And Seth is going to have to survive it, very similar to what you see in a football game when a little team comes in and starts taking it to the big boy team, but can they last? And that's ultimately going to be where I think Seth is going to have that experience advantage. He knows he's got the stamina to survive it. Also, I think what puts the final nail in the coffin for this pick is Seth, by taking out Rey Mysterio's eye a couple of weeks ago, has proven he'll do whatever it takes to get the win, and he's willing to maim someone if that's as far as it's got to go. I do think my heart will be with Dominik, but I'm taking Seth Rollins to win this match.
Yeah. As you stated, Seth has been here for a very long time. He's owned SummerSlam. He's looked good doing it. And, of course, as we know, Seth, before he was a Messiah, started out as the architect. He always has a game plan, a blueprint. He has something in his mind for what he wants to do in every match. And this one's got to be no different. Dominik, you're right. His father means the world to him. That is a bond you can't break between father and son, or even son or daughter. So with the fact that he has, come in and said, I'm going to give it everything I got for my father, he's trying to uphold a legacy that, his father started. So, of course, emotional, he's going to come out guns blazing, which I think can make him a little bit reckless, which Seth would see and take advantage of. So my pick also would be Seth.
So both of us taking the Messiah in the match.
Yep.
SummerSlam, of course, brings out, a lot of fun, biggest party of the summer, and everything else. So, we want to make sure, that we're all having fun. The first pay-per-view introduction of the Thunderdome, we got a chance to be a part of that yesterday during Smackdown. So, it was quite a joy to get a chance to kind of, in a way, be part of the WWE audience. While I get the next setup for the next match, how do you feel the Thunderdome is going to end up, playing a role in, that fan interaction?
Man, I cannot speak on this enough. I love the creativity. I love whoever came up with the idea. I just, you can't get enough of it. It brings out that mentality that, we're not in the arena, but we still feel like we're in the arena by sitting in our rooms and enjoying every match as we see it. So I thought it was creative. I love it. I can hope they continue to do it. So
I'm looking forward to it. But we finally get a chance to get to our first of what's going to ultimately be 6 title matches. So our first one will be moving back to Monday Night Raw, and that will be for the Raw Tag Team Championships. So we'll go ahead and put that right there for your viewing pleasure. This is a match that was actually originally supposed to happen at WrestleMania. And due to an injury to Andrade, the match ended up ultimately changing just a little bit. You ended up having Austin Theory step in place of Andrade. The Street Profits ended up retaining. It's hard to believe they've been Raw Tag Team Champions for 5 months already.
You know why?
Why?
Because they had the smoke.
They got the smoke. They haven't lost the smoke.
That's right, fam.
But they've got the Raw Tag Team titles now on the line in a match, as we said, that was supposed to happen at WrestleMania. It finally happens here at SummerSlam. It is the Street Profits defending against Andrade and Angel Garza, with no doubt Zelina Vega tailing very closely behind to watch out for her 2 boys. So, there's been no doubt there's been a lot of rivalry and a lot of bad blood back and forth between these 2 teams, with it being stepped up to another level a couple of weeks ago when you had Montez Ford seemingly go down in the middle of a match. No one really understood why, until a little bit later when it was revealed that he had been poisoned. And unfortunately, thanks to Retribution and them getting a hold of the cameras, we ended up being able to establish last week that it was Zelina Vega who ultimately poisoned Montez Ford, which of course brought out the EST.
And guess what? When you mess with, and I agree, when you mess with my man, you technically mess with me. So when you mess with his business, you mess with mine. And I feel where she's coming from. But the moment she took off them earrings, and I feel like if we look right here, we'll just say it's an invisible Bianca, because I feel like she should be in the corner.
Well, she's come out herself and said, we keep our business separate. He does his business, I handle my business. But when you mess with my man, when you mess with my husband, his business becomes
my business. Yeah.
Exactly. So I do agree that I think you could kind of picture a little Bianca right there, because I do believe that she's not going to be far away in ultimately, deciding how this match is going to play out. But ultimately, Andrade and Angel Garza, we've seen them on the brink of about killing each other. And then, ironically, it was Randy Orton that seemingly snapped them back into line and put them back in place, even better than Vega could. And then Vega has seemingly gotten them back where they need to be, to the point to where now here they are getting ready to compete for the titles. The Street Profits have been on a level of their own, even with Ford's poisoning. It seems like the Profits have found a new level. They've been able to beat, the best teams that have been put in front of them, including teams like the Viking Raiders. So
they're brethren.
Exactly. So you look at this, and it seems like the Profits have got a very firm hold on those tag team titles. But yet, if there's a team that can knock them off, I think it is Vega's team. But
see, for me, I love, and for anybody that knows me, I am also tag team. I love the entertainment value with these guys. They don't. There's nothing to be desired. They leave it like as they came in. They come in with the smoke, they leave with the smoke. I don't have my red Solo cup, but you know where I'm going with this.
You have a coffee cup. That's as close as you're going to get.
I believe they've had these titles for a while. But like you said, if anybody's going to knock them off, these two have had their number. Zelina has been in their corner. I hate the fact that she did what she did, and it was proven on camera, and Bianca squared it up. But if you ask me, Bianca will show up when she needs to if anything, to neutralize this fact right here of Zelina being in the corner. Now, I feel that these two, now that they're on the same page, will go for pretty much the throat. So,
okay. So pick time. You're up first on this one. Who you got? She wasted no time throwing down that pick.
I mean, I love Street Profits. There's no way you cannot tell me I don't. But I also love my fellas, Almas and Garza. So, yeah.
Will Garza keep on his pants?
I hope not. I mean,
he never keeps on his pants.
At least when it comes to the move that he does, I hope he rips him off, throws him at one of the Street Profits, and wins the match.
So, you're taking new champs here.
Yes.
So, okay, well, I mean, if there's ever a place to do it, it's usually the big pay-per-views. I really like where this rivalry has gone.
Yeah, me too.
But at the same time, with a little bit of downtime while you had Andrade recovering from his injury and finishing up his U.S. storyline with Apollo Crews, this one has been going on since pre-WrestleMania. So, on and off, this has been a rivalry that you need to, have been seeing for a while. So I really feel like this has to be the match where it comes to an end unless you choose to put it at Payback, the following week. So we will see, if it's time for there to be a new regime in the tag team division on Monday Night Raw. With that being the case, though, I think that the addition of Bianca Belair into this equation is going to kind of neutralize Zelina, as you said earlier, and I think that will be the difference. I think there's too much experience and there's too much title picture, experience for them to fall. Also, the emotional side of, Montez's poisoning will come into play. I like the Street Profits to retain the tag team titles at SummerSlam.
Okay.
So our first difference of opinion, and of course, we want to hear from you. Throw your comments down below. Are we getting these right, or are we absolutely messing them up? But let's stay on Monday Night Raw as we move to our next match. And speaking of emotional rivalries, this one most definitely has had a lot of emotions behind it.
I've already told you, I am in my feelings when it comes to my Georgia boys. So, with that being said, this rivalry right here is going to have me in my feelings.
AJ losing last night on Smackdown already had you.
Don't go there. Let's not.
But we mentioned Georgia boys because currently a Georgia boy is holding the new United States Championship. We say new because at this point he's sporting that thing around. But he will be having an opportunity to defend his championship at SummerSlam as we hopefully end the rivalry with him and the Hurt Business as the United States title will be on the line in a match between champion Apollo Crews and the challenger MVP.
I'm rolling my eyes because you know how I feel about this match. I don't like MVP. Back in the day when he first started out, I was all about MVP, his ballin' persona, his image, his swag, his chains, his intro, everything. But as of right now, I don't seem like he's doing very much for himself. Only thing he's really good at is being a good mouthpiece. He has Shelton Benjamin, as we all know, as well as Bobby Lashley, doing his grunt work, doing his, ground pound, I'm going to, beat you up, so forth, so on. So I don't feel like he really can, win.
Well, remember where all of this started. This is basically a rivalry of what is essentially disrespect.
Yeah.
Because MVP, when setting up what ultimately has become the Hurt Business, he wanted Apollo Crews as part of his team. And Apollo basically said, no. He said, I'm going to do it on my own. I can handle it on my own. And MVP, very similar to when he tried to recruit Drew McIntyre when he was still champion, essentially has said, no, I'm not going to take no for an answer. And if you want to keep telling me no for an answer, fine. I will make it my goal to make sure you lose everything because you spurned me. It didn't work well with Drew, and so far it hasn't worked with Apollo. Despite the fact that MVP self-proclaimed himself as the United States champion for about 2 weeks. Cruz eventually came back, made sure he was crowned the legitimate champion. MVP, of course, blaming it on Retribution. So now we'll finally, settle everything. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, as well as any other members of Hurt Business, are banned from ringside, so this will be a traditional one-on-one.
I see a grown man fighting with a petulant child, because that's how I see MVP.
Well, he's a child that at this point, has kind of shown that when he doesn't get his way,
he'll throw a tantrum like my 2-year-old.
Now, with that being said, though, MVP definitely has, skill. He has, ability. He wouldn't be wrestling in his mid-40s if he wasn't, a capable competitor. And the United States Championship has always been, honestly, what defines him, other than his love of the city of Miami. If there's anyone that has a feel for doing what needs to be done and being able to be a mouthpiece not just for his group but also for himself, it is someone like MVP. Apollo has tried his best to stand as everything against that. He wants to show that he is a fighting champion, and we've said for a while now, with him being from Georgia, that we wanted him to get pushed. He never did in NXT, and now he's finally getting that singles push that hopefully is going to get him not just to be a mid-card champion, but maybe push him into that conversation of going for the WWE or Universal Championships at some point. So, there's about 100 different ways that you can feel about this. It all comes down to the matter of, do you pick the guy who has been fighting the system, or do you pick the guy that, is basically the system and has those advantages at his side, although it seems like Apollo's neutralized them going into this.
Yep.
So, my pick first for this one, from just strictly an advantage of, experience, they both have tons of it.
Yeah.
But MVP has been with WWE and knows the system a little bit longer. Apollo has seemingly had the answer at just about every turn and has been willing to play with the mind games of MVP, when the Hurt Business has been out there, and even when he proclaimed himself as champion, he's been willing to do it with a smile on his face and taking it in stride, even carrying around and sporting the new belt even after he won it. MVP, I feel like, is someone who is maybe trying to, play a little bit past retirement age at this point. That's no disrespect to his ability. He could out-wrestle me any day of the week. But, I'm very surprised that they've let a storyline of this magnitude go on with him as long as we can. I fully expected when this, when the idea of a U.S. title match, I expected Bobby Lashley to be the one that was going to be here, and it may very well still happen.
I think we all expected Bobby Lashley because he was the one that was getting the work done before Shelton Benjamin joined the Hurt Business.
Correct. So I do feel like, when the lights are on the brightest, MVP shines. But I do feel like Apollo will find a way to get it done. I'm going to pick him to retain the United States Championship over MVP.
I'm picking Apollo because I feel like he's the rightful champion. He's been willing to do it on his own by himself with no help. He's neutralized his Hurt Business. He's neutralized anything that has stood in his way. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad that the title is on him, and I don't see him failing this small task with this kid. So I'm picking him as well.
So 2 picks for Apollo Crews to retain the U.S. title.
Yep.
Excellent. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, if Apollo Crews was to retain, we've got Apollo plates, so be on the lookout. We are going to have a plate exchange immediately following SummerSlam on Sunday, so be on the lookout for it. A number of title changes could potentially happen, and I'm going to do my best to try to get as many new plates on them, but we do have the new Apollo plates, so for the first time, the U.S. title will have new ones, assuming that Apollo retains.
Yep, and I believe he will.
Time to find out. So we move into our back half of the pay-per-view, which begins with a pair of women's title matches with one familiar face in both of them.
Yes, my girl Asuka.
We will begin with the Smackdown Women's Championship, which will be defended by the longest reigning Smackdown champion of all time, Bayley, as she will defend against Asuka, who won a tri-branded Battle Royal on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. It's important to remember that this is going to be the first of 2 championship matches for Asuka. A little early previews, of course, Asuka will also be competing later on for the Raw Women's Championship against her friend Sasha Banks a little bit later in the evening. So it's kind of an interesting perspective because Asuka, on one hand, wants to win the championship and has to go all out if you're going to beat someone with the caliber of Bayley. But at the same time, she also has to remember she has a second match behind this, and if she uses all of her gas against Bayley, even in a victory, she's not going to have anything left to take on Sasha. So Sasha definitely goes in with an advantage in her match. So it'll be curious to see, you know, what kind of plan does Asuka take? Does she try to win fast to try to, you know, do things? If Bayley puts her in a submission hold, does she maybe say, okay, you know, I'm going to use up too much energy. I'm going to go ahead and tap out of this one so I can go ahead and get ready for Sasha. There's a number of different ways that this can pan out, but of course, you can't picture out the emotional side of things. Kairi Sane being forced to retire because of actions by Bayley and Sasha. Asuka, of course, losing the Raw Women's title to Sasha Banks because of that attack. So Asuka goes in really with nothing to lose.
Asuka, to me, she's humorous. She has entertainment value. Her wear, her clothes, her hair, everything about her, I love her to pieces. So when I found out she was going to be in both matches, my mind was blown. So again, you're right. She has nothing to lose and everything to gain. And I feel like, honestly, if that's going to be the case, I feel like Asuka will try to win as quickly as possible, but in my opinion, I also feel like there could potentially be a swerve, as we saw last night on Smackdown with Naomi pinning Bayley to win. But at the same time, with that going into mind, I feel like Asuka's going to take advantage of Bayley's frustration and try to like pin her as quickly as possible to win that title.
Okay, so you're up first for this one. Who takes the Smackdown title? She's not wasting any time with these picks. She's moving right to it.
Yep.
I assume you have a reason.
She can't lose. I don't feel like she can lose. I feel like she's going to take advantage of Bayley's frustration. And, you know, it's just going to be, I know what it's like. And then on top of that, she's going to, in the back of her mind, she's still going to be thinking about what they did to her friend before her friend left. So,
you know, and I think that your reasoning is correct, but I think your reasoning will be exactly the reason why I think it's going to go the other way.
Okay.
You know, Bayley, as you said on SmackDown, went second in the match with Naomi. Now, Naomi ended up losing to Sasha Banks in the first match, but then got a little overconfident and lost in under 2 minutes to Naomi after Naomi had already been in one match already. So one thing that Bayley has done, whether you like her or whether you hate her, she has been able to learn from mistakes. And yes, she maybe does it a little underhanded, but the fact is she learns from previous mistakes, learns from previous things that have happened. And I think that her going in with that overconfidence level is going to also provide her with a little bit of motivation, because she realizes, because I went in cocky, because I went in overconfident, I now have to go first. I don't think she's going to allow that moment. I do believe there will be some frustration, but I don't believe it's going to be enough frustration. I do expect Sasha to play a role in this match in some form or fashion, but at the end of the day, I think that she's been the longest reigning SmackDown champion for too long for her to make that mistake now. I like Bayley to retain the championship on SmackDown.
You sheep.
Yeah, bad. So, 3 to go, and as we said, we're discussing the Women's Championship on SmackDown, which of course will transition us right into the Raw Women's Championship, where we've kind of already given a semi-preview to this one already because of the fact that, as you can see, we have a guest trying to get in. He's going to have to hang tight just a second, where Asuka will also get a shot at the Raw Women's Championship against Sasha Banks. Asuka getting this match because she beat Bayley in a match on Raw a couple of weeks ago, which forces Sasha to now have to defend the championship. So I'll let you preview this while I go find out what our guest wants.
For me, I feel like this has been a back and forth match. I feel like this is going to go blow for blow. As we both know, Sasha is the boss. When she puts her mind on something and she really wants it bad enough, she will get it done. And even though it's Asuka, and as much as I love Asuka, I could see it going one of two ways. I could see Sasha winning, I could see Asuka winning. But, you know, to be the legit boss and the standard, you have to go in with a game plan, since you are the blueprint. Play on words.
So, you know, and again, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that, as we said already, Asuka is going to come into this match having already wrestled one match.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have a 100% Asuka unless something off the wall happens and Asuka wins, you know, on like a 20-second pinfall or something. You expect that Asuka will go in certainly not at 100%. It's going to be dependent upon how much damage Bayley does during her match. Is she going to have, a set injury that she's not going to have time to be able to try to go get set up? Because I fully expect that as soon as this match is over, Sasha is going to immediately want to begin hers. It's not the first time we've seen this. We saw Becky Lynch last year have to defend 2 titles in one night, and she was able to be successful in the first, but just simply didn't have enough gas left to be able to survive the second. So this is a tall task for Asuka, especially as the challenger, because she has to pin or submit in order to win both titles. So this is a tall task for her to win. Basically, it's going to be hard enough to win 1 match, let alone 2. Regardless of the result of this one, this is a fresh match. And with that being in play, I really do feel like the advantage is going to be heavily in Sasha's favor.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
One thing that could play a role, though, is the result of this match could very well play a role in this one, because let's assume hypothetically, let's say Asuka wins.
Yeah.
Now you've got an angry and frustrated Bayley.
Is she going
to want to screw over, Asuka to make sure she doesn't win? But on the flip side, could she also now have a little jealousy factor towards Sasha and maybe say, if I got to lose my title, you're losing yours too? So there's, a lot of emotional play. Of course, the two of them have been volunteering each other. You can see the cracks forming.
It's funny. It's funny to me.
It is funny that you can see the cracks forming. So this has a lot of different ways that it can go here.
Yeah.
I really don't think it's going to be, I don't think you can really pinpoint a, like a set strategy that allows you to pick this one. I really do feel like the results of earlier will directly play it. So I'm just going to go with my gut here. I think that Sasha Banks will retain.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you got to mention her history. Hasn't done well in first title defenses, so I do feel like the results of Asuka being first will ultimately play out to where Sasha will have the advantage in the second match. I like Sasha retaining.
Like I said, but for all we know, there could be a swerve, and I'm just hypothetically talking. For if that's the case, and if Bayley for whatever reason wins, she will be in Sasha's corner. But who's going to help Asuka? I believe, in my opinion, that you may have a brief appearance from Io, because obviously she's going to want to help. Because I believe, if I have it correct, Asuka came and helped her, right? So I feel like we could see Io at some point.
Potentially could see someone like Naomi as well, who of course has had her issues with the two of them as well.
So, again, Sasha always has a plan for, everything, and as much as I know that this is going to happen and she will retain, I think Asuka's going to be too tired to.
You just think she's going to be out of gas?
She's going to be out of gas, yes.
So you've got Asuka winning 1 title. I don't have her winning either of them. I think that Bayley will find a way to win that first match, and as a result, Asuka's going to be a sitting duck for Sasha.
I hate the fact that, like you stated, Sasha has a bad time with retaining, but I think this time's going to be different. Something just tells me in my heart that she's going to retain, and she deserves it, in my opinion. So, okay.
Sasha deserves a long run as a singles champion. She's been successful as a tag. But let's move into our penultimate match, our co-main event. And I'd like to note that the 2 storylines for the world titles have probably had the best storyline writing that we have seen for championships for the world titles in quite some time. We opened with SmackDown's premier championship, which is the final culmination of what was a 3-match series between Universal Champion Braun Strowman and this time Bray Wyatt going in his Fiend persona, so it will be his toughest mode using the Fiend in this particular match. Now, we have seen Braun and Bray Wyatt have a one-on-one match with Braun winning, and then we have seen the two of them compete in a Wyatt swamp fight back at Extreme Rules with the Fiend, with Bray Wyatt / the Fiend ultimately winning that one. So this is the rubber match. This is the one that is for all the marbles. We've seen Braun take quite a sadistic turn since that Wyatt swamp fight, going as far as to say, I am now, I'm going to cuss here, so get the censors ready, the most sadistic SOB in the world today, but, you look at it and say, okay, well, the Fiend is very similar to that as well. And what you hate is the person that's been left in the middle of all this, and that's Alexa Bliss.
Oh, tiny Alexa! Oh my goodness! And the fact that she came out with everything that happened, everything that took place. She came out. She tried to get the Fiend to stop his craziness. That did not work, but it did work for her not to get mandible clawed again. But when it came down to it, her feelings were more hurt by the Braun comment about how he don't give a damn about her, which I get because they've been friends, or at least the way she took it, they had been friends for a long time, on screen, off screen. And so when that comment, was said, it kind of hit home, because now you're looking at Alexa, after what Nikki did to her, the Fiend's after her, and Braun don't care about her, and you have to think in her mind what's going through it. So she's trying to get back one person, even if it's Braun, and she pretty much slapped the mess out of him. Like, she has that nasty pop behind her slaps, and she did multiple slaps, and you figured it would have worked. So yeah.
Well, it may very well still work, because at the end of the day, I do feel like, as great as this rivalry has been, Alexa is going to play a role in this somehow. Now the question is she going to play the role? Because remember, the Fiend did all of this directly to go at Braun. He was not doing she understands that I got grabbed by the Fiend because he was trying to get to Braun.
Yeah.
Braun did it because he was just pissed off.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't doing it to get to Bray. He wasn't doing it. He was doing it because he felt disrespected by Alexa, and, ultimately ended up going as far as injuring her, by dropping her from, God, what would it be, about 9-10 feet, by the time he threw her as well. For one of her size, that's a pretty long drop.
Yeah, it is.
And then you've seen the mind game start working now. Of course, Braun, being a former member of the Wyatt family, has proven that he can play the mind games and be able to do the whole transportation and, thing as easily as the Fiend can. But the Fiend has seemingly laughed it off every step of the way. He knows what he's capable of and still feels that he has that mental advantage. And I do feel like after the events of Bray getting thrown off only for the Fiend to appear out of the ambulance right at the end of Smackdown,
that was crazy.
I still feel like the Fiend goes in with that mental advantage. So all things considered, it's really going to come down to, the mind games of who is going to be the one that's going to finally get that last edge. And then if Alexa does become involved, who is she going to side with? Is she going to try to save her friend one more time? Or is she going to finally say, fine, you want to act like this, that's fine, and maybe, all of a sudden become Abigail and see what happens?
I feel like, with that being said, after what Nikki did to her, and the fact that she's kind of blown Nikki off, and Nikki's been trying to apologize and said she was sorry and so forth and so on, and then Braun, what he did, I feel like, honestly, she has no one left. And obviously we all know that the Fiend can turn anybody back into their original persona, so I think she's going to go back to heel Alexa, being the tiny, not misbehaved, the bliss fits, or whatever we want to call it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the Fiend, we've gone publicly on here that people, once the Fiend gets a hold of them, they go back to the persona in which they were at their most successful. And Alexa being the most successful when she was a no-nonsense, I'm in it for myself, and I will use people to get what I want, but also I will take matters into my own hands to get what I ultimately want, which in my opinion would be looking bad for a person like Braun. So we get to our pick. You're up first. Who takes the Universal Championship? Or is the Fiend belt reappearing again, or does Braun find a way?
I'm not going to sit here and lie, because, as y'all all know, we cosplay, and that to me was one of your best cosplay. And so when this happened, I was devastated that he even lost the title. I felt like, Braun, is good, but Bray has done everything he's asked, and just like for him to lose the way he did, it just kind of broke my heart. So my pick is going to be the Fiend. I feel like he is going to play all the mind games. I feel like he's going to have the advantage. I feel like that Alexa could play a part to help him and become Sister Abigail. We've seen it already. I believe we'll see it again, and that's who I go with.
It's going to be interesting to see, because they've spent a year. The Fiend made his initial debut at SummerSlam last year in a match with Finn Balor. And up to this point, the Fiend has only been defeated once, and in an official match in which he was the standard competitor, and that was in a match against Goldberg. We established that, again, the Fiend changes people back into the personas and is able to prey in on your mind.
Yeah.
The reason why it didn't work on Goldberg is because he's only ever had one persona. He had nothing to change. He had nothing to work with. And therefore, that's why Goldberg was able to get the upper hand and was able to beat him. Braun, meanwhile, has a long history with Bray Wyatt and a long history with the Wyatt family. There is a multitude of things mentally that the Fiend can be able to play with here. But I do believe that someone like Braun is ready for this. Braun has been a very surprising, very good champion, winning it, because when they put the title on him right after WrestleMania, I wasn't sure how they were going to be able to write storylines for someone who, for the most part, is just a big brute that doesn't really do well with a microphone, doesn't really do well in a speaking role, and yet they have spent 4 months really building him up And now he is one of the better people that you see in being able to tell a good story.
Yeah.
Picks win the universe.
What we saw from the win in, and that's why I give him all the advantage. That was very smart.
So we now move into our main event of SummerSlam, and easily the best written story we've seen all year, and it is for the WWE Championship, as Drew McIntyre will defend against the reformed legend killer in Randy Orton. This will actually be Orton's fourth main event of SummerSlam in his career, Drew's first. So Orton has been in the spotlight. He won the world title, and at the time was the youngest world champion of all time when he defeated Chris Benoit to win the championship at SummerSlam. He since has won cash-ins against Daniel Bryan, and now he main events again here against Drew McIntyre. The legend killer Randy Orton, we've said publicly on our show, this is easily the best Orton we've seen maybe of his entire career.
I would agree.
As he has come back out with a mentality of, this is when I was at my best, this is the type of person I'm going to be, and I'm not going to let anyone stand in my way. Friend, foe, anyone. It's going to stop me from being world champion. And yes, you said, ironic, you said mentor, because a legend, he just recently took out his own friend, Ric Flair.
Which is the saddest thing ever for you to see someone of this magnitude, but you cannot put it past him. He's the Viper, so we all know that snakes, vipers, anything in that species will strike at anyone or anything.
Meanwhile, you look at Drew McIntyre, who, finally got that huge push. I know you've been looking at those legs. Look at those Scottish legs carrying kegs through the Highland Mountains.
I'm good.
Ladies, if you haven't seen that, go enjoy that. Men too, I don't judge. But you end up, finally Drew getting that humongous push that everybody said he needed when he won the Royal Rumble back in January.
Yeah.
He beats Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, retains against some of the best competitors that we've got to offer. He's beaten Seth Rollins. He's beaten The Big Show. He won a very unique style match against Dolph Ziggler to be able to continue to stay forward as champion. He's taken on every challenger and has done it in a fun way, having fun every step of the way. He even himself knows his reign's not going to last forever, but when it does, but he's going to have fun every step of the way until it's over.
But at the same time, don't look over this handsome face and them nice legs. He's not one to be joked with, and he will kick your head off at any point in time if he thinks you're taking him as a joke.
And that's one thing that they say, the tagline of SummerSlam being, you'll never see it coming. And of course, one of the biggest parts of the RKO is it seems to strike out of nowhere.
We've seen
But you've also seen the Claymore kick can hit you just as quick and can knock you senseless just as easily as the RKO can.
You want to know what my favorite Claymore kick was? To Brock Lesnar, when he just kicked his head clean off his body.
A couple of times.
So, yeah, but still.
All of them deserved.
Yeah.
But, you look at a match like this, and it really is, the young, hungry champion going up against a guy who he's been here, he's done it. He knows how to win a match like this. He's won 13 world titles, might be 14 when this is over. He, even was told by Flair, I want you to be the one to break the record. I don't want it to be Cena getting to 17. I don't even want it to be Charlotte getting to 17. I want it to be you that gets to 17 before anyone else. And that's high praise coming from him, and the fact that Orton still took the time to punt him in the head.
The fact that you even threw your daughter under the bus like that lets you know right there how much Randy Orton should have meant to him when he even stated that.
So it's going to be interesting to see, how this goes. I really feel like you could write great storyline no matter which person you pick.
Almost definitely.
Each has a wonderful following on social media, but ultimately we got to have a winner. And that's where I think things have to come into play here. I'm up first for the final pick of SummerSlam. As I said, this has been the best Randy Orton we've probably seen in maybe his entire career. And he's done it by simply saying, no one's going to stop me, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get there, including going through you and anyone you care about and anyone I care about, if it means me becoming WWE Champion again. Drew McIntyre has taken that very seriously and saying, I'm not playing games with you. He's laughed, he's joked, he's had fun along the way.
He's looked good along the way, and all them suits continue.
But at the same time, he has really put the serious face on because he knows how dangerous a person like Randy Orton can be. He's punted Edge, he's punted Christian, he's punted Ric Flair. So the names are endless of people, and he does not want his legend run to be done before it even begins. So he's even said, I've got receipts to cash in, and I believe that there will be receipts that will be cashed in, and I think Orton is going to be in for the biggest fight of his life when he has to battle with Drew McIntyre. One thing I do think, though, is that at the end, Orton's been here. Orton's done that. He's won when the spotlights are at the biggest. He's won at WrestleMania. He's won at SummerSlam. And I believe he wins here again. I've got a title change here. I like Randy Orton becoming a 14-time WWE World Champion, as he will beat Drew McIntyre to win the championship.
Okay, well, I mean, if that's the case and that's how you feel, that's great and all, but like I said, Drew, even though as good as he looks, he fights real dirty. He fights, it's an intense fight. It's going to be one that I think Randy Orton will be able to keep up with. Like I said, we believe he is in the best shape, physical, everything about Randy is it. But in my opinion, I feel like Drew's in the best shape. He does what he has to. He gets everything done. He's mad with the fact that Randy keeps, doing, simple bullshit, more or less. And I don't think he's gonna lay down and take it. He didn't do it with Dolph. He hasn't done it with anybody else. And Randy Orton's gonna be no different. So I'm gonna have Drew retain.
All right, so Drew retains the WWE Championship. So we'll have a loss somewhere. And of course, the one thing that you can't take into question with this entire pay-per-view is the fact that, of course, you have Retribution still sitting on the outside. How much of a role are they going to play in one or more of these matches? With especially that Payback pay-per-view being so soon after, at what point do you see it to where they're finally going to, make their appearance known? Because I fully expect that this pay-per-view is not going to go off without Retribution showing up at least once.
I want to know who the leader is. I've been assuming who I think it is, but I really want to know.
SummerSlam, if the biggest pay-per-view, it may be the perfect place for him to make his debut. But that's Top Rope Spoilers. We appreciate you joining us. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Our battery's running a bit low, and of course, when it warns you, it pauses the video, so sorry about that. But we have our picks. Who do you like? Did we get them right? But at the end of the day, enjoy SummerSlam. We're going to be in the Thunderdome for a little while, so be on the lookout for us. But, that's it. Closing remarks and take us home.
Yes, I want to take the time to wish, because we just found out that Heather's James, has a birthday today, so we want to wish you the happiest, most merriest birthday ever. And if you were out there drinking enough for both me and Steve, since we can't be there, we love you, and we hope all of you have a good day and enjoy SummerSlam. Bye, you guys.